Welcome to the Ranchers Thursday lunchtime series. Hope you all didn't try to join last week and apologize. Maybe we had it perhaps on the schedule, but try to let everybody know that we did not have one scheduled last week. But we're glad you were able to join here today and have another good grazing centered webinar scheduled for today. My name is David Lallman. I'm an extension beef cattle specialist here in the Animal and Food Sciences Department.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. I'm Rosalind Biggs. I am also a beef cattle extension specialist housed within veterinary medicine.
Hi, I'm Paul Beck. I'm a beef cattle extension specialist housed in the Department of Animal and Food Sciences as well.
Three of us have been collaborating to put these on really since COVID, and so we do post these recordings to our website at beef.okstate.edu. And so if you would like to pass this along, we noticed this morning that the previous two webinars in this series or videos of this series have not been posted yet, but our group and IT is working on that. So hopefully they'll be posted soon, and we'll try to get this one from today posted just as soon as we can. So with that, we want to introduce two hosts today, and then they will introduce our guest. But Earl Ward is one of our area livestock specialists. We're very fortunate here in Oklahoma Extension to have some of the best livestock specialists in the country, and Earl is definitely one of those, and he has responsibilities in Northeast Oklahoma. Earl is going to introduce our guest. So Earl, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Lawman. So like Dr. Lawman said, I'm Earl Ward, Northeast Area Livestock Specialist. So in Oklahoma, I cover basically I-35 and I-40 in that Northeast corner. When we were organizing this and looking for producers, I sent out an email to all of my educators and asked them, for suggestions of producers that would fit well for this. And I got a lot of great suggestions. And about that time, we had an in-service in McIntosh County. And Pam's suggestion was Josh Emerson. And so after visiting him on that in-service, I was like, man, he'd be perfect fit for this. So I want to introduce Pamela Ward, no relation, but still a good name to have, right? But Pamela Ward is our county educator in McIntosh County, and she's going to introduce her producer.
Thank you, Earl. I'm Pamela Ward, I'm McIntosh County Extension Educator, and I've been with Extension for about 12 years. We had it all together. I am pleased to be here, and thank you guys for joining us today. I have my producer here with me, Mr. Josh Emerson. I'd like to introduce Mr. Emerson and his family. Mr. Emerson and his family live just north of Shakota here. They run a 350 to 400 head cow-calf operation on roughly 1,500 acres that they own and lease some of that out. I'm excited for you guys to hear about his forage management practices. We had an awesome time last week, Earl and I, getting to drive around and look at Josh's place. Josh and his wife Kim and their kids put a lot of hard work into this operation. Not only is Josh a full-time rancher, but he also serves on many boards throughout the county and the state. He's our McIntosh County Cattlemen's president. He also is our Farm Bureau County president, and he sits on our state drought commission. Josh's wife, Kim, she's the president of the bank here in town, and they are very big supporters of our extension program here in McIntosh County. And I'm very thankful to have Josh as a producer. Throughout the last few years, I've had the opportunity to do some work with Brian Pugh and Josh and put out some research plots. We did some demonstrations on DFI versus UAN. And we also done some fan versus streamer applications and got some good results out of those plots, and would love to share that information later on with you guys if the time arises. But I think enough for that. I think it's time to get started. I'll talk about Josh's operation a little bit, and I have a slide here for you guys. This is kind of a breakdown of Josh's operation. As you can see, the areas in white are land that Josh and Kim own, and the area in the green is land that he leases. A lot of Josh's land that he manages is reclaimed a coal strip, and I'm going to turn it over to Josh here and let him get started talking about this piece of land here to get us started. So,
like I said, I'm Josh Emerson. I would say I'm a first generation full-time farmer rancher. My father bought and sold cattle. He is also a school teacher, so I'm pretty much first generation full-time rancher. I started when I was 18, and I purchased the quarter section you see on the top of this slide when I was 18, and it was a bare piece of property. And then we've done a lot of work on it, but we primarily are a cow-calf operation, mostly commercial cow-calf. We have a small herd of fall calving registered Sim-Angus, Angus, and Red Angus cows that we artificial inseminate and do embryo transfer on. Raise most of our own bulls, and try to raise the kids a show heifer every so often, and raise a lot of our replacement heifers, trying to grow a herd of our own genetics. So that's pretty much what we do. We buy I buy some cattle through the sale barns and try to upgrade them when I have the grass, and I'm sure we'll get into that more in the future on this. But that's pretty much what we do. And but back to the land on what we started with. We started with that quarter section, and it was just a bare 160 acres, no cross fencing. And I knew to get the most out of my grass, that was something I was going to have to do, is figure out how to manage it the most. It's primarily mixed native type Bermuda grass, and some fescue on the area that had been reclaimed. So we knew we had to kind of cross fence some of that and make it to where I could manage those cool season grasses better and control that fescue a little better. So that would have been in 1998, 99. And over the past few years, we've continued to cross fence it. And we added another 40 acres on the south end of that tract. We continue to cross fence it. We've turned that into, there's around 9 tracts in that traps from 5 acres to the largest is the 40-acre tract there on the bottom of your screen. But from 5 to 40 acres is what those traps and pastures look like. Some of them are hot wire. Most of them are permanent. And we just try to maximize as much forage as we can. If we get in a dry spot, we're definitely willing to move a hot wire in and try to have something growing all the time.
So I like to kind of to show these pictures here. I'll go back. Go back. You guys can kind of see over time, Josh's pastures has grown and developed, and I wanted you guys to be able to see that one of his main important things to him when he first gets a piece of property was putting in these fences, dividing that up and allowing him to have several different paddocks to rotational graze. Josh expressed to us that importance of the rotational grazing system. So here you can see the red lines, or the picture on the left is when it had no cross fences on it, and in 2024, now he has approximately 10 different paddocks on this this pasture set that he has. Josh, this area right down here in the lower right-hand corner, it was reclaimed coal strip. And can you tell us a little bit about the kind of the management practices that you are utilizing on this area?
When I purchased that property about 5 years ago, there hadn't been any management on it, and it had been overgrazed tremendously. So the first thing we did was do weed control, fertility test it, start getting our fertility where it needed to be, get the weeds managed, and we put a lot of manure on it. I have some pen pack from cattle that I purchased, and we take that out, put it on those areas that were definitely needing it. We've overseeded it in ryegrass and clovers, and as long as we can keep the weeds managed in that area, we try to keep seeding some clover back until we get too much weed pressure. But we've definitely changed it to a place that was a 8 to 10 cows on 40 acres to we'll graze 15 to 20 pairs intermittently on there, pretty easy. On that 200-acre tract, I've had up to 90 pairs on there and still baled 15 to 20 acres of hay on it. So fertility is a big issue for us, and being able to rotate those cattle and have something growing all the time, whether it's a small tract or a larger tract, has really helped increase our productivity.
Josh, you talked a little bit about utilizing your manure and spreading it on your pasture. Can you tell us a little bit more about the different fertilizer applications that you like to use?
We in the springtime and summer, we mainly use 32% UAN. We like that just because we can store that, have it on the farm. We can use some weed control products with it, and it's there when I need to use it. If we see a rain coming, we can load up the spreader or spray truck, get out there and put some fertility on, and it's just handy. And if we want to go in and just hit a spot of fescue, we can go in there and just do that small tract of fescue in the spring or in the fall to stockpile with, and don't have to go deal with buying fertilizer at a fertilized plant or somewhere like that and have to buy so many tons or something like that. We just store it. The price is competitive most of the time, but having that on the farm has really helped us a lot. And in the fall, we usually put our DAP and potash down on the places that need it. And like I said earlier, we use that pen pack for some of the pens that we feed on, and then where we do the AI work in the fall, those cattle are kind of more of a concentrated area fed, and we'll clean all that up in the spring and apply it back to those pastures.
I wanted to show you guys this picture. Josh recently purchased 183 acres north of the place that I just showed you from the aerial map. On the left side of the fence is Josh's pasture. On the right side is the neighbor's pasture. Whenever Josh purchased this a year ago, his pasture this is on the south side. So on the north side of the road, it looked just like the neighbors, lots of weeds and lack of fertility, as you can tell. This last week, this is a picture of Josh's pasture on the north side of the road. You can tell a noticeable difference. Josh, can you tell us a little bit about what was the first thing you started doing when you purchased this property?
The first thing we did was tear out the existing fences, and we're working on replacing those right now. And like Pamela said, it's a 183 acre tract. Part of it's about 30 acres of it is bottom ground, and the rest is more upland. First thing we did is cut it into 80 acre tract in two, because we knew we could manage that. I have 80 acres that join it to the east that's cut into 240s, and one of those 40s is cut into a 10 and a 30. So I knew that with that I could cut that 80 in half with a temporary hot wire or something like that. But once we got that plan in place, we went in and I pulled soil tests, but it was kind of late this year before we got in there. So all I did was do weed control, and I applied 100 pounds of UAN, and we baled. And that place had been sprigged in Bermuda grass about 20 years ago and had not been well managed since then. So when I bought it, I knew I was going to have to do some work, but it's amazing what weed control will do to a place in one application. So we went over it, primarily still a lot of Bermuda grass in there, made almost 3 bales an acre, 5 by 6 bales when we baled it 2 weeks ago.
Awesome. Josh, this is a picture of your tanks here. Could you talk to us a little bit about the storage of your fertilizer? I really, you talked about how the availability of it, but also something you mentioned while we were driving around was being able to put this out in your different paddocks at different times, and having it available at your fingertips. And so tell us a little bit about the storage of that and what you got going right here.
With the 2 blue tanks, we can store 1 semi-load of fertilizer, which is usually 21 to 24 tons. And with that other tank, that allows us to store two loads. We try to watch the fertilizer market and see when opportunity exists to buy that at a lower cost. And we keep fertilizer in there most of the time. We also try to get it out when we can grow grass. I mean, if it's in the spring and we've got ryegrass or fescue, we're going to apply some of that UAN to give that stuff a shot of growth. In the fall, when we can get some moisture here in the next few weeks, hopefully, we will apply some more of that and try to stockpile several of those pastures that have cool season grass, and even some of the Bermuda grass traps.
Josh, you mentioned the fertilizer, but you also mentioned spraying and the importance of doing both of these. While we were on your place, you talked about the different spraying techniques that you used. And as an extension agent, I really wanted to add this picture in here because I thought it was pretty good. Josh had just sprayed this pasture, and to your right is a picture of a greenbrier, and we all know how hard that is to get rid of. So I thought that was good to add in there. Tell us a little bit about how you spray your pastures and the means of application that you use.
We use I have a floater truck that is an older floater truck that allows me to cover a lot of acres pretty quick. We use GPS. And like I said, we use the UAN, and always use my UAN as a surfactant, just because to me it helps that plant take that chemical up quicker and better. So we use it as a surfactant, even if we're just weed killing. But this is the picture in the slide is the bottom land of that 183 acres that I just purchased. and you can see a lot of blackberry, some greenbriers, and some other sprouts and things. And it was always too wet to get over it this spring, so it finally got a little bit drier. Thought we would try to get over it, decided not to, and got a gentleman with a drone to come in and spray that. And that's the first time I've ever used a drone, and I really feel like we got a good kill, especially like Pamela said on the greenbriers. It almost was like with the wind blowing that underneath those leaves, that we got a lot better kill than we normally do on greenbriers. But the drone technology, I can definitely see a use for it when the weather's not cooperating with you, or like those blackberries. I don't want to run my spray truck over the top of those. So that drone definitely helped us control those.
Very good control out there. Josh, when I do the math on 300 to 400 head and the amount of acres, I feel like we get a tight stocking rate. But when I'm out there looking at your pastures, we had a great stance of forage, plenty of forage. Tell us a little bit about how you manage your forage and when you know when to rotate those pastures.
If we can get rain, it's kind of unlimited what we can run there in this area with Fertility. But we've got to watch what our moisture looks like. Grass height is something we look at, and what that stocking rate is. I mean, I may have a 10-acre trap in the spring, and that's what you see those cows there in that picture. They're in about a 10-acre trap that is mostly fescue, and I stockpile it, but I've got 2 sets of cows that will rotate in and out of that 10-acre trap through the early spring. And that saves me a tremendous amount of hay, just rotating those cows in and out of there every so often. But the height, keeping some cover on it, to me is definitely at least a 4 to 5 inch cover when you're grazing it is definitely helping to hold that moisture and allowing us to graze it longer.
This picture here I thought was interesting. You see a good Bermuda grass stance, and on the other side you see some fescue here. Talk a little bit more. I know we've touched base on a little bit of it, but managing those cool season and those warm season grasses, and the difference in managing them and how you go about managing that.
Fescue, we try to graze it pretty hard in the spring and stockpile it in the fall. Just for hay savings. A lot of guys are probably in our area are feeding 4 bales per cow in the wintertime, and for 130 to 50 days, I would say. And I'd like to get mine down to 2 bales, and hopefully if I can get down to 90 days would be great. But for me, that grass is the easiest thing for me to get into those cows, and the cheapest thing for me to get into those cows to get them to grow. So we're definitely trying to manage that. We try to bale more of our warm season grasses for our hay, but if we have a tract of fescue that looks like it's going to get rank on us, we will put up a temporary hot wire, and it may be 15 acres, 20 acres, 30 acres. And we squeeze those cows down on it and put some pressure on it, and we will bale the other in the spring. So we'll manage it one way or the other, whether it's through a cow or hay baling, and still through a cow.
I thought this picture on the left was really interesting. It's a good way to show you guys how Josh is able to easily move his cattle from one paddock to the next with the gate system here. I know we talked a little bit about that moving, but can you elaborate a little bit more on the ease of having this here and how this helps you move your cattle?
We did a lot of planning. That property that Pamela's got up there now is a 600 and around 615 acres. And we've got it into about 16 traps, pastures. The largest one is part of that is a lease place. So the largest piece of it is 135 acres. So in the summer, the larger herd of cattle go to that 135 acres, and we manage the Bermuda grass pasture inside there for hay. Well, that largest group of cattle is on the 135 acres. But a lot of that was temporary hot wire at one time. And after we got permanent fences built, we did one of our projects through our CSP through NRCS was a hot wires where we could just tap off of those interior fences and throw up a temporary wire anywhere we wanted to. So those offsets down through the central areas of those traps allow me at any time to anywhere down through there. There's a mile of those offset hot wires, and we can tap onto there and put up a temporary hot wire and manage for what cattle we have in that area at that time.
Josh, talk to us a little bit about breeding season. And you mentioned something about you don't, while we were riding around, sorry, that you don't pull your bulls. What's your reasoning here? And can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
On our fall calving herd, which is mostly the registered and AI cows, we do pull those bulls just because we want to keep them in a tighter herd. Calving herd, the spring calving cows, we don't pull a bull. And one of the main reasons is because we don't want to put those bulls together somewhere and risk hurting them. But the other reason is we would rather have a bred cow that is out of sync to either market or keep if we decide to keep her. We would rather be bred because we feel there's more value in that bred cow than selling an open cow.
Josh, here you have a commodity barn here. Talk to us a little bit about how you utilize this and make this more efficient for yourself.
I told Earl and Pam when we were driving around that that's my drought buster, that right there. We built that commodity barn just so we could buy those commodity products at lower prices in the bulk and have them on hand at any time. And the reason I call it my drought buster is because if you see there's a vertical mixer sitting there, and I've had that for 15, 18 years. I've had a vertical mixer, and it has definitely kept me from having to sell cattle in drought situations because we can feed some lower quality hay, use some DDGs, and any other products that we feel like we've got a really good commodity broker, and he keeps me in mind on things that somebody else might not want to feed because it's too powdery or it doesn't look the right color. We'll have that tested, and we'll feed it to the cattle and feed it through our calves or our cows, either way. But the commodity barn and the mixture, if it's something the producer can use, and it's definitely kept me from having to cull some of our better cattle during drought periods. It's allowed me to bale some hay that probably I normally wouldn't bale and feed through those cows, or use some corn stalks or milo stalks or something like that to keep our cow herd intact. And I also buy, normally I will buy 100 or so upgrade type cows, heiferette cows, and breed those, put some weight on them. And a lot of times I'll do that this time of year in early fall when calves are getting pulled off. With the cattle market is the way it is right now, we're kind of reassessing what we're gonna do, whether we're gonna try and do that or keep some heifers and just grow them. But the commodity storage has definitely helped save me a lot of dollars.
Well, I feel like we've covered quite a bit. Josh, thank you very much. I think we have some questions popping up in there in the chat box.
Josh, when we were visiting, I told Pam the one thing that I was really impressed with is your flexibility, and that had nothing to do with you doing the splits, but it had to do with the flexibility of having that liquid fertilizer there, flexible in your cow inventory, right? And all of that, as you said several times while we were visiting, is, you know, it's moisture dependent is what you kept saying. And I really like that flexibility that you have with using your hot wire and everything like that to utilize the forages that are available. So, can you tell us a little bit, like, on your pasture management, the flexibility that you use? You said you don't want to bale more than what you're going to use for that year. So what do you do with that extra forage, if you have extra forage?
A lot of times with that extra forage, that's what I will do is buy those cattle that are kind of an upgrade type cattle or an open young cow and breed those and try to put weight on them through that. I've done that with calves, but I would rather do it with young cows and try to breed those cattle if I know where they're coming from. You know, a lot of those are first calf heifers that aren't breeding back in time for somebody, and that's what we'll do a lot of times. You know, and we will sell some hay if we don't get the cattle bought and we bale a little bit more hay than we need, we will sell some hay. I don't like to sell a lot of extra hay just because the last few years has kept me right on the edge of not having enough.
How we talked about it, but will you tell us how you feed your hay and your strategies on what you do there?
I unroll 95% of that hay or run it through the mixer. Feed very little in a hay ring, and if we do feed it in a hay ring, it's a cone-shaped hay ring because 20% waste in a hay ring is entirely too much. But when we are unrolling, we try to unroll in those weaker areas of our pastures and just continue to move that over where we're spreading those nutrients that we took out of there back onto our own pasture.
So another thing that kind of stood apart when we were talking was that you like on that 200 acres, original 200 acres, you fenced off the creek on the south side of that 40. And I asked you why you did that. So will you tell us why you fenced off that?
The first thing, I didn't want to fight water gaps in the spring in eastern Oklahoma, but also just to keep those cattle out of there. You know, I don't want to pollute that creek anymore. So when it does get dry, we'll put some cattle in there and graze them temporary, just maybe 3 days. But we just try to. I don't want them staying in a pond if I can keep from it. We've got a lot of ponds, but we're also rehabbing some wells just so we can maybe possibly fence some of those ponds out. I just think the cattle do better if we can keep them out of the ponds.
So that's one thing that we didn't talk about when we were showing that progression of that 200 acres is how many ponds were built on that 200 acres. So
there's when I purchased that property, there were 3 ponds on it, and now I think there's 13. So we've built ponds and try to put them in places that where we weren't losing good grass, lower areas that, and we used NRCS and on a lot of those things. And some of them, they didn't want to put where we wanted to put them. So we went ahead and put them there where they would work better for us on a forage base.
The other thing that I really like that Josh does is he doesn't specify that this pasture, whether it's a 10 acre or 40 acre, is strictly Bermuda grass. While we were driving around, you would say, well, the back side of this is fescue, but the front side of this is introduced. And when you wanted fescue, you would fertilize, you'd be very specific about, I'm only going to fertilize where the fescue's at. And so very impressed with you're working with what you have, not trying to make it into something that doesn't want to be.
Well, I mean, some of that, especially that reclaimed ground where it was reclaimed correctly and was put into fescue and Bermuda grass, where that soil was good and deep, the Bermuda grass flourished. Where it wasn't quite so good, the fescue did good. So we'll manage that, just like I was telling you. If we have to, we'll put up a hot wire and graze that fescue and fertilize it. Or we may bale it and just keep the cattle off that and bale the fescue if we come out of June of this year. I come out in June of the spring and my haystacks are short. We're going to be baling some spring grass just so we know we've got some forage in the hay bunks. If we're carrying over a bunch of hay, we're probably just going to try to bale our warm season grasses and put more Bermuda grass in the haystacks.
The only last thing I had, Josh, was when we drove on the north side of the place up there by your house, there's some pastures with a bunch of weeds that don't get sprayed. Can you tell us why that is?
I've got a neighbor that's got there was a grow house there, but now it's a big garden area. So it's right by the blacktop road and everybody gets to look at that pasture and say, look at all those weeds he's got. That's why they're there is a concern for my neighbor, I guess.
To keep the peace.
Yes.
Dr. Lawman, I had a question. He said, do you still try to introduce legumes, perhaps once you have improve the forage base where less herbicide is required?
Yes, Dr. Lawman, I do, especially on that fescue. I try to interseed some white clover in there every so often. And if we can keep the weed pressure off of it, it'll last me 3 or 4 years before I get where I feel like I need to get in there and do some weed control. One of my biggest problems where I'm at is woolly croton. And it just seems like it is so hard to get rid of every year, and it encroaches on you. But that's probably the weed I fight the worst is the woolly croton.
Our next question, Jane Drake, what product did you use that worked so well on your greenbriers? I've had mixed results.
The drone was using dicamba, and on the spray truck we used dicamba, rifle, and methafuron, and with the UAN, and that was probably the best kill, and was that mixture. And I really think it was the methafuron with that product that really helped. I don't know. I don't think they got any pictures of those that we sprayed with the truck, but it killed them immediately. And I think the methafuron and the UAN as a carrier with it really works on those.
We seem to get a lot of good results on the plot that we put out when we used the UAN versus DFI. We got a lot of good results utilizing the UAN. It helped a lot get a good kill on that. So our next question, James Davis, are you using Grazing Next HL?
I do use Grazing some. I like to use it more earlier in the spring. Just because it doesn't, for me, it just doesn't seem to do as great a job on by having lance leaf ragweed or anything like that later. But yes, we do use Grazing HL, and it works great with the UAN. And that's something you've really got to watch, is what products you can use with the liquid fertilizer.
Josh, a question I always like to ask producers is like, what is a challenge or a limitation that you are experiencing on your operation, maybe to grow or to even maintain?
One of the first things that comes to mind is labor. We're kind of, well, I'll just tell you, it's me and my wife Kim and my 2 kids. The majority of the time, I have a young man that is a great worker that's just got out of high school and starting college at Connors. And he's a great worker, helps me a ton. But that's probably the biggest limitation is, if you get somebody full time, you're going to have to grow. You're going to have to put a lot more cows on the feed bill just to pay for them. So we're kind of right there on that. It seems like there's some producers that are getting out right now because the market is high and maybe some availability of more grass, but being able to stock that grass right now is going to be is going to cost a lot to do too.
Josh, this is Dave Lallman. Would you mind going in just a little more detail about how you utilize your commodity barn and your vertical mixer wagon to feed your cows through the winter? And do you supplement all winter? And if so, what commodities do you like to use, and how do you utilize that?
We do have a cake box on the feed trucks. Early in the fall, we'll feed some DDG probably at 5 pounds to try to get those cattle to eat some more of that dead grass. 5 pounds every other day or every third day. This year we're kind of looking at maybe some soybean meal, because it kind of maybe depending on what DDG does in the next few weeks, the bean meal and some salt may be something we'll use on some of that stockpile Bermuda grass. But with the vertical mixture, it's more of we really don't break it out until the dead of winter. And one of the things I really like about it is I can control how many pounds per cow I'm giving of the hay and the grain products. That's one of my biggest things, and no waste. If we've got a place that's got some broom sage in it, that those cows are going to sort out, if it was in a ring or something, I can get those cattle to eat that forage, and it's part of their diet. It's part of that 35 to 38, 40 pounds, depending on what we're feeding. I can make that rougher hay part of their diet. Normally for our proteins, we're using DDG or corn gluten. We do use soy hulls some. We use a soy byproduct that comes out of Pryor. And a lot of times we'll get some DDGs and some gluten products that come off the barges over here at Weber Falls or Van Buren that may have some heat damage to it. And we'll use those products just because we can get them at a lower cost, and they'll work with that mixture.
Do you feed that blend, concentrate and forage blend on the ground, or you try to move some bunks into where the cows are?
Some of it is in bunks, and it just depends if, like I said, I've got a lot of traps, and it depends where those cows are at. But a lot of it will get fed on the ground. I do have some 4-foot poly hay. They're made just like the poly hay rings, but they're in a 4-foot skirted circle. and they're real light, easy to move, and they'll hold about 700 pounds of what we're feeding. And I use those a lot of times because they're easy to move. I can pick them up with the forks on my tractor behind my mixer, with my mixer behind, move them to another trap. So, but we do feed a lot of it on the ground.
All right, well, excellent information. You all, Dr. Biggs, Dr. Beck, Earl, you'll have any more questions?
Earl took all my questions, so I don't know if we can have him on here
He
again.
is always on top of it.
That's right. That's right. No, just certainly appreciate Josh and as well as Pam and Earl putting all this together. The pictures really kind of speak to the transformation on a number of those places. And just want to echo what Earl had said. Really impressed, of course, with the flexibility and be able to move about any different direction based on what the conditions and the markets will tolerate. So thanks so much for spending the time with us.
Yeah. Thank you also to Pamela and Earl. Go ahead, Dr. Beck.
Yeah, Josh, just great information. I really, a lot of us, when we start cross fencing places, we try to make everything the exact same size and shape. And, it's just not realistic and just being able to follow where your forages are and the lay of the land and managing around those different sizes is just great to show, and really like what you're doing. And like Dr. Biggs said, just the ability to pivot and change with the markets and the weather is really impressive management there.
Yeah, I in particular, I'll just pick out a couple of things. I really enjoyed the idea of storing your own liquid fertilizer, so you could, how many of us wind up trying to get a buggy or somebody to come spray liquid for us right ahead of a rain, and that solves that issue. And also your commodity barn. What great ideas. And also you mentioned feeding it on the ground, so you're building the organic matter and those nutrients in that soil as well, just like you mentioned, feeding your hay. So outstanding. Hey, so if you weren't able to join us previously, the Abernathy, Angus, and Jackson County was featured on July 24th. I think Dr. Biggs put a link there so you can get back to those archived webinars. July 31st, we had an excellent session from Dr. Laura Goodman about improving grazing distribution on larger tracts of land, and then also just a terrific interview from Brian Frecking and Leanna Jones with Mr. David Pickle there in LaFleur County. So be sure and look those up if you didn't get to it, and watch those videos as well. Last thing we want to say here today, many of you will be aware of this, but we lost a legend in the beef cattle industry, an Oklahoma State alumni, Mrs. Minnie Lou Bradley, just a little over a week ago, and several of us are going to head out to her celebration of life here on Monday. But Dr. Biggs is going to put a link to some of that information there. And so anyway, we're certainly privileged to have interviewed Minnie Lou. Well, it would have been late last fall as one of these Ranchers Thursday lunchtime series. So I encourage you to go look that up as well. Anything else, Doctor? Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you all for doing this, and all of Extension, our producers in McIntosh County. We're so glad that y'all are willing to come and help us in our meetings and do the things that you all do. I know sometimes it probably seems thankless, but we definitely appreciate OSU Extension for what they do for the producers.
Thank you, Josh. You hadn't stopped the recording, I hope, Dr. Biggs, before
No,
we
I'll
caught that
I'll make
piece.
sure I send that to Dr. Doy so she hears that.
Okay, please do. That's awesome. We appreciate that very much, Josh. Thank you. And because we have some tremendous, county educators and area specialists like that, it's fun to get to reach out in the state and have have that network to work with our producers in the state of Oklahoma. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Be sure to join us next week, next Thursday, the 21st of August. Our state forage specialist, Mr. Brian Pugh, is going to talk about adaptive versus grazing management, advantages and antagonisms. Brian is a terrific speaker. He knows this topic well, and you'll really enjoy that. So hope to see you then. Thank you all.